Recording, and I am relaxed.
Now you got me a little panicked, and I'm like, shit.
Dude, I can't, there's no way for me to do this process. I've tried so many things to just, I make a checklist, I like everything. I just worry. My brain is fucked.
No, that's good.
It's like when you leave the house and if you don't stand there and like think about putting the key in the hole and turning it and say to yourself, I locked it 5 times, you leave and you're like, did I lock the fucking door?
I kind of feel safe now because like I fucked up once and now I'm like, I'm good. It's never going to happen again. I'm like I had my thing. I'm set.
We all got to get it out the way at one point. Jeremy, that's going to be dangerous for you in the future.
No, Jeremy's
fuck
a
dude. I'm bulletproof. I'm the unsinkable Jeremy Jayne. That's what they call me, dude.
The unsinkable Jeremy Jayne sounds like a Sundance movie.
Yes,
it really does.
Most like twee, like teenage, like wallflower.
It's like Swiss Army Man or something. Like,
yeah. The unsinkable Jeremy
like
Jayne. That's
it
really
sounds like an A24 movie about a guy who's constantly fucking up, though. Like it's an ironic title.
Yeah, like Ari Aster. Because Ari Aster's next movie is called like Disappointment Boulevard, which, oh my god, it's supposed to be like 3.5 hours. He's been in editing battles with A24 because A24 does not want to release a movie over 3 hours, but it's fucking Ari Aster's.
It's Ari Aster. Let him do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Let him release a 12-hour version of whatever nightmare exists in his brain.
That's what they did with Midsommar, is they released the director's cut. Anyway.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Noclip podcast. This is a good conversation. Jesse.
Yes, welcome to the Noclip podcast. It's episode 82. I'm your host, Jesse Garasha. Danny's on vacation again, or he's out. He's unavailable today, but that is all right, because I am still joined by the lovely Frank Howley. Frank, how's it going?
Howdy, y'all. That's my Texas accent.
It's what happens when you spend a couple days in Houston, when you're out doing anime Matsuri. Can't wait to talk about that. And Jeremy.
Hi.
Welcome to the pod. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing pretty good. I have been doing nothing but playing tactics RPGs and making homemade soup. Literally the only 2 things I've done the last few days. So I'm excited to talk about soup. This is a soup podcast, right?
You know what? Right away. What soup did you make?
I made borscht last night. It was really good.
What the hell is borscht?
Borscht is people say it's Russian, but I looked it up last night. It's actually, I believe, Ukrainian. But it is a beet-based soup. So it is a blood red soup that's kind of like sweet, like a little bit, some people call it sour. I made kind of like a more savory version, but it's very good. It's a Ukrainian beet soup.
Nice. That sounds good. I haven't had beets before.
Oh, dude, beets are good.
Really?
You've never had like beets in a salad or anything?
No, the only beets I know are the hot trap beets that I wrap over on the weekends. That's it.
I thought you were gonna say the Beats, the band from Doug.
Oh yeah, right. No, I should have said that. That's funnier.
Sorry.
Anyways,
that was a bad reference. That didn't land.
No, that's where my mind goes to all the time.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Straight to Doug, right? That's what we're all thinking about here.
It's on everyone's mind.
Of course. When's it not? But before we get into things real quick, if you'd like to support this 100% ad-free podcast, except for this ad right now, fund our documentaries and get access to a bunch of bonuses, including videos, bonus podcast episodes, and Discord access. You can do so at patreon.com/noclip. And if you want to donate at the tippy top level, you want to go to 110%, you can join our Battle Pass holders, which includes Cody Krieger, Aaron L. White, Forrest Pruitt, Cameron Ladd, George Zirkotis, Jacob Godserve, and Tohir Tiliev. We talked about soup briefly. What everyone's been working on, of course, has been soup and going to anime conventions. Jeremy, though, you did a fantastic job along with Frank and Danny, who again is not here, but we've been dropping hot stuff, even though he's a little bit preoccupied at the moment. I don't know when he sleeps. I'm going to imagine not very often. But you launched the first episode of the Hyperlight Development series this week. Congrats on that. Came out really, really fantastic. Love watching that. Fun stuff with the drone shots and everything there. A lot of like cinematography that I think we haven't seen too much of in these sort of things from Noclip in a little while. I mean, you still do the stand-ups and stuff with Danny. Was it fun getting to go out and use that a lot more when you were filming there, Jeremy?
So some of the drone stuff is purchased occasionally.
Oh.
The reason for that is because Los Angeles is a notoriously difficult place to film.
Is that right?
So bringing a drone and getting permits would be way more trouble than it's worth, basically. Because it's just like a couple shots in the intro, it's worth it just to grab those. But yeah, no, we have flown a drone before and it is fun. But I didn't want to go to jail for B-roll.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we have the same kind of laws here, so.
Yeah, that's not like a tough story to tell, like when you're in jail and people are like, what are you in for? You know, if you like kill a guy in a bar fight, then people will respect you. But if it's like, I was getting some B-roll for a documentary, then you're like the bottom of the totem pole in the jail.
I don't know, man. That might be pretty cool. You fly a plane, you take out an entire airport because you're flying a drone near an airport. Come on. That's what happened in the UK. I think that's why the rules are so strict. Someone was flying a drone that was over 249 grams near an airport and they had to shut it down because there was air interference or whatever. So now it's impossible to fly them anywhere. Yeah, the rules are weird with that stuff. Anyways, cool stuff. Good stuff on the
Danny did the edit on that one. He did a fantastic job. And yeah, obviously the people at Heart Machine are super talented. The stuff they're working on is really cool. And I think that series is going to be really good. I think it will like the way that the trajectory of the Hades series went was that once Hades was closer to launch and launching, a lot of people went back and watched the doc. So I know the people who have seen this episode really enjoy it and stuff. But I think it's like a weird kind of like legacy piece with these series because the game itself is so far away that it's kind of cool to do these things, get in early, and then like create a series that for people to revisit once this game is, once the hype meter is full.
Totally, yeah. You'll have like a backlog of however many episodes by the time it comes out. I'm excited to see how it develops over time. I mean, right now it looks fantastic. Just like there's a hoverboard. Come on. I'll play whatever you put out. If there's some form of skateboard for me to ride around on, skateboard, hoverboard, a board, surfboard, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, it looks really fun. I was like, obviously I filmed a bunch of over-the-shoulder B-roll of them just playing the build and stuff, and I was kind of jealous. I really, it was one of those, like, that's a good metric for a game is when you're watching someone play even like a prototype and you're like, oh man, I get like 5 minutes of that,
please?
Yeah.
Hand me the controller.
Mom said it's my turn with the experimental prototype.
Frank, you did some of the capture for this, yeah?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a huge fan of Heart Machine ever since Hyper Light Drifter. Like, I beat that game that opening weekend. I even reached out to Alex Preston and be like, "Can I interview you for my YouTube channel?" So there's like there's a YouTube interview of me in like 2017 sitting on Alex's couch interviewing him, and it's like kind of surreal. Like 5 years later, it's like, oh, now we're on the other side of it. But man, yeah, Hyper Light Drifter is awesome, and even Solar Ash is really cool. So it's like, I mean, this is going to be an ongoing series, but it's like, yeah, if you're a fan of those games, like we have briefly, we have the making of those inserted into this, and like, yeah, it was an honor to like play these games again because they're so awesome. They're really fun to play, visually stunning, pretty snappy. But this episode 1 is like pretty profound. Like it covers so much and so like beautiful, like beyond just the game dev stuff. I love how in depth they get with everything, and I love all the B-roll. Being able to shoot in the studio where we're seeing their workspaces and their applications, which I have no idea what the hell any of that stuff is, but it looks like rocket science. But like Wolfgang's interview, they spoke to like work-life balance and even how they got everyone getting into the industries, even from top-level producers. Alex Preston spoke about his condition, and like that last like few minutes of the documentary is like might be the hardest hitting stuff that's ever been on a Noclip doc. And thank you, Alex and everyone at Heart Machine, for being so like open and like, man, it's yeah, now I'm eager to see more stuff. I'm eager to see the game. Yeah, Heart Machine is such a cool crew. It's also kind of cool watching it because this is like one of the few documentaries where it's like, I mean, actually, most, I feel like a lot of Noclip docs are in SoCal, but being born and raised in Southern California, it's cool. Like, oh, an LA doc, like even when there's like stock B-roll of drone stuff or even the stuff that Jeremy shot in the streets, it's like, oh, I know where that is. Like, so yeah, it's cool to have local developers because like, yeah, LA being in Southern California, everything is so stretched out and everyone's in their cars on their highways. They don't really feel the sense of community. So it was kind of cool early on in the Heart Machine doc how they all met through like the LA game space and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a really cool scene. And also funny enough, Wolfgang joined the Patreon, so they popped in the Discord to say hello, which was like an honor. It's like, oh my gosh, hi.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, the documentary is amazing. Incredible work to Danny and everyone involved for working on it. And yeah, I'm excited to see as like people kind of catch on. Because I feel like one thing that's always really funny with Noclip is like people will leave comments like, "Hey, you should do a documentary on this thing." And so once Hyperlight Breaker really pops off, people are gonna be like, "Hey, you should do a documentary on this." Oh, buddy, we've got
we got the box set.
We got the boyhood of this. So yeah, and then it is also really cool to see the themes that overlap. Like people are still adapting to COVID, like a lot of this documentary, and it's not like the thing where it's like this is over. It's not necessarily completely over our heads. Like it's just one of the many assets of being a working in 2022, and it's just part of everyone's lives now. So it's kind of interesting how they touched on it. Yeah, again, like these are incredible time capsules, and it's going to be incredible to see how the story goes because as part of an ongoing series, we don't know how the story is going to go. I would like to see this game be successful. I would like to be able to play it. I'm sure it's going to be awesome, but yeah, what's going to happen? I don't know. But it's a cool project.
Yeah, as time progresses. And I mean, you mentioned Alex's condition there, speaking of like things happening. I don't want to get morbid or anything, but I mean, I remember when that story came out with the release of Hyperlight Drifter and everyone was talking to him about his condition. And it's just like, damn. Like you got to make that amazing game. Solar Ash has come out. Now you're doing Breaker. And it's like, yeah, as this series progresses, like, geez, there's so much to think about and so much to consider. And yeah, it's a really cool thing that Noclip gets to work on this and gets to be embedded with the development of such a fantastic looking game and from a, studio that has just kind of been knocking it out of the park with everything they've done so far. So very excited to see more of this series, hopefully soon. Yeah, it's a good time. I love it. Speaking of projects, Jeremy, Jayne,
yep.
We've watched it. I'm going to tease everyone that's listening right now. You haven't seen it yet, but I've seen it. Frank's seen it. We loved it. Jayne Dev, episode 2. Congratulations on being like 99.9% of the way through that video. What was it like working on that, the second episode this time around?
It was wild. So it is done. It's going up soon.
Awesome.
The only 0.1% left to do is publish it, basically. But yeah, no, I mean, I love working on this shit. I wouldn't do this. It takes so much work, and it's like I spend so many hours on this that are not like work hours, that are just like me hours, and then the footage feeds into editing these pieces. That I wouldn't do this if I really didn't like doing it. It is a ton of work, but yeah, I think this one's really cool. It's like 3 months of game dev work. It's a ton of art. It's a ton of like weird little systems that I prototyped, an entire tactics RPG battle system that I made from scratch. And yeah, I think it's like, it's interesting because I think is the episode in which I realize what's different about this from other devlogs. And I won't spoil too much, but basically I think the gist of it is that this is the way I'm approaching game dev is kind of like the way that people, I think, approach painting or something like that, where it's more just about like, oh, this is something I do because it's fulfilling to me. Whereas like a lot of devlogs that I've seen are kind of these driven people who know what they want to make and they like drive towards a finished product and then they make it. And I think that is the way to go about game dev if you're trying to make a career of it. But I think if it's like, if it's something you do for fulfillment or whatever, I think it's okay to just kind of like treat it as a creative pursuit. Like not every creative pursuit needs to be monetized. Not every creative pursuit needs to be goal oriented.
No.
Yeah, I know. This may come as a shock to some of our listeners, but yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think I was happy with the first one, so I felt like a lot of pressure to kind of like continue keeping the quality up, but yeah, it's hard to talk about without spoiling because I think the themes are kind of like the narrative content here, so I don't want to spoil too much. But I think people will. If you liked the first one, you'll enjoy this one. If you didn't see the first one, doesn't matter. Watch this one instead. Or watch both.
Yeah, watch both. Watch everything on Crew. Why not? But it's funny because you're mentioning here so many things about the narrative and the themes that come through in these, and it's like this is a devlog, but it's we're talking about how it marries themes from the first one and how it carries ideas over, and you don't want to spoil the plot of a devlog, not to make them sound like they're not capable of telling stories. Every good thing tells a story, right? But like it's just funny how you talk about it because I think that speaks to your mind as like an editor and what you do in your work and everything and the documentaries and all that. Like your production mindset leads to you looking at this, not just like, how did I make this game and how did it go somewhere? You like find the deeper meaning in that work. And that's what I really love about this series so far is how like you can feel Jeremy Jayne in this work. You don't just feel like this is a cool devlog of someone like making a fun game. This is like, your work. This is you in this video or this series so far. It's so much fun to watch. I really
Thanks,
like
man.
it.
That's very, very nice of you to say. Yeah, it's like that's kind of what you're right. That's like what editing is kind of you're finding the connective tissue with a bunch of different pieces of source material, and so it is kind of weird and like it's like the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail. Like I feel like I'm like making a game project and then making a video out of the game project in which I reflect on the game project. And so it's kind of like I think it's good for me because I have a lot of different creative pursuits, and I think it's very easy for me to just do them aimlessly. I think it's kind of nice having like the eye in the room as this like invisible observer, because as I'm working on game dev and stuff, there's constantly a part of me that's like, okay, but you know, we got to be headed somewhere, dude. Like it's good to just like make stuff for the sake of making stuff, but also like, you know, in 3 months when you post the next devlog, if you're like, well, I just made some cool stuff, man, people are gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, why would anyone watch this? So I think it's good for me to have that structure. I think I need a little bit of you know, you work differently when it is something that you're definitely going to share with people, and I think I think I found a good way to like taper that between just like total aimless creativity and totally like rigid productivity. So I think it's healthy for me to have that accountability or something.
Yeah, you found a good middle ground. I like it. Man, I'm gonna keep saying it. I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but this is seriously some of my favorite stuff to watch.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Of course, dude. You're welcome. Speaking of fun stuff to watch, on Twitter today, I watched this really fantastic 2-minute, 20-second long slideshow of someone's experience at a certain anime convention. Frank, you want to tell us a little bit about what happened at Anime Matsuri?
Yeah, I'm obsessed with the art of anime slideshows. During COVID, when conventions went away, I got very like nostalgic for conventions, and so I started just researching history of conventions, anime conventions. And the secret to YouTube is if you type in before I forget what the 2 dots are, semicolon, whatever, before 2008, you can find ancient YouTube. So I would just type in random anime conventions before 2008 and just uncover 6,000 anime slideshows of cosplayers from 2006 set to Caramel Dancing. And I've been so obsessed with like kind of doing my take on the 2006 anime slideshow. So I've been going to a bunch of conventions this summer, and I went to Anime Matsuri, a completely random convention in Houston, Texas. It's claimed to be one of the most successful, one of the biggest anime conventions in America, but their numbers are inflated and it's false.
Whoa, what?
There's like a lot of controversy to this convention. I didn't know until I got there, but it's a pretty small convention in a massive Houston arena. But I was excited. I went with my friend Audrey. She's an artist. She did Artist Alley, and she had a great run there. Yeah, I was just at Anime Expo a month before, which was probably over 100,000 people. I would say Anime Matsuri felt like it was maybe 5,000 people in comparison, like way less. But it was really charming going to a smaller convention because I feel like the people there were really friendly, really excited to have something to do in Texas that had, nerd interests and stuff. So yeah, I just ran around taking pictures of cosplayers. I feel like at smaller conventions, there's even more cosplayers, or the cosplayers stand out. I feel like at big conventions, walking around in costumes is overwhelming. It's hot and blah, blah, blah. But here at Anime Matsuri, it was actually pretty fun. As soon as I walked in on day one, I saw a full crew of kids in Scream masks. Like it was like a group of friends obsessed with horror, and there was just all different Scream masks and awesome goth costumes. I was like, all right, these are my people. And yeah, I was always fascinated. I feel like during COVID, it allowed so many people to indulge themselves with media, like anime, video games, and stuff. And I feel like now there's a huge resurgence. Also, TikTok led to that. But there's a huge resurgence of just cosplay and nerd culture and fandom and stuff. So it's so fun to go to conventions, see what properties are hot. I saw a really badass, authentic, Mortal Kombat 2 Johnny Cage, a Mortal Kombat 2 katana. So it's so fun just walking around seeing what costumes there are. But yeah, it was cool to walk around. I had a lot of fun. There wasn't much to do at the convention itself. There was vendors, not really. There was no industry booths or anything like that. Right. No gaming really. But so it just felt like being at a Halloween party for 3 days. I was just walking down the aisles, taking photos of stuff. So yeah, I have a slideshow and I was posting cool pictures on Instagram. They had a Metal Gear Solid museum, which was kind of cool.
Oh.
So they just had like, I don't even know if this was like sanctioned by Konami or what. They had a biography of Hideo Kojima. I think this was just like something they did to fill the space. There was a Sonic museum, a Hideo Kojima, no, a Metal Gear museum, and a Berserk museum, where it was just like a little like gallery where you could walk in. They had every copy of Berserk. You could sit on a couch and just read. So it's like, all right, like I appreciate little things like that. The one trend I noticed at this convention, and I feel like, I don't know, I noticed this at an Arizona convention too, but the Houston convention, they had so many people walking around with signs saying, I will step on you for $5, I will step on you for $3. There was kind of like an independent market, and even a competitive market of people walking around holding signs saying, I will step on you. I'm sure there was at least, man, it doesn't even seem that high, but at least 6 people I saw and made contact with were like, oh my God, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there. Maybe there was more as days went on and people really caught on. There were some booths where it was like $20 to get sat on, to get stepped on, and get a picture taken.
So like people were paying to be sat and stepped on. Were you one of them?
So
that's a yes.
So day one, the person next to us at our Artist Alley booth was someone who specialized in adults art, and someone made the offer. Hey, if I bought one of your prints, would you step on me? Sure thing. And so this kid got stepped on by this lady, and I was like, oh, sure, that's a weird thing to see at a convention. And then across the aisle, we saw another booth that's, hey, we'll step on you for $3. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? Day 2, I start seeing people walking around with the signs, we'll step on you for $5, step on you for $3, blah, blah, blah. It's like, what the hell is going on? And then I discovered in the 18 plus section, there was a whole booth that was just like $20 photo op, anything you want.
Anything.
And then there was so many people. Dude, I don't know what. Maybe this is just when there's nothing to do at a convention, people lose their minds. But then by day 3, I saw somebody have a sign that says, I will step on you for free. And I was like, well, I'm not going to let this opportunity pass by. So I took them up on their offer. It actually was like a pretty good massage. Like they stepped on my back a little bit. And,
was that the clip that we saw at the end of your slideshow?
Yeah. I posted it on Twitter, and they're on Instagram. I will step on you for free. I think the 4 is with a number 4, but I was like, wow, okay, I get it. So now I'm curious, like, is that going to be at other conventions? I'm going to PAX next. Is that there? I feel like, I don't know. Anime conventions are like kind of excessively like horny, and but I appreciated seeing that culture there. Other than that, I'm trying to think what stood out from Texas. It was 100 degrees and humid and raining, so I did not go outside at all. But that was Anime Matsuri. I find conventions endearing. I love conventions in general. So it's there. I wouldn't travel out of state for it. But if you're in Texas,
if you live in Houston, why not? Walk on over.
There was also a booth selling lean crossover comic book T-shirts. So I got a T-shirt that was Wolverine, and it was Wolverine holding.
Oh,
you
mean lean, like holding codeine, like the cough syrup and Sprite.
Yeah, Texas tea or scissor. And so I bought like 6 shirts, and I bought 2 shirts there, and the art it was really like the original Big Dog shirts, where it's like these are the silliest crossovers, but this is so like corny. Like I love it. So White Cup Entertainment was cool, but that was my adventures at Anime Matsuri. Oh, it was just cool to see cosplay, and I appreciate people cosplaying. It was really cool.
No, it sounds like fun. You like keep going to conventions, and you seem like you have the most fun because you're not there to engage with the community in like a direct, serious way. You're like, I'm here to fuck around and have fun.
It's kind of like going a lens out, and I guess it's the John Wilson like John Wilson thing of just like looking around and seeing like what's the wider scope of this, and just kind of finding the fun of that. And so I just like convention culture, and different conventions have different cultures. Like PAX is super fun because people are there to show off games. You can actually do stuff. Developers are there. Anime Expo is kind of neat because actual Japanese producers and voice actors will come out and show off new trailers and stuff. And then there's conventions like Anime Matsuri or Taiyocon where it's like just vendors, but then there's also people making their own fun. And I feel like that's where you get to meet people and kind of have some unique experience.
Frank's like our on the ground correspondent.
Yes.
What's the I got a nickname for you. What's the anime that is it Hunter? What's the name of that?
Hunter x Hunter, yeah.
Hunter x Hunter. Okay, we're gonna call you Hunter x Hunter S. Thompson.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, that's why. So I'm so close to just fully doing a Frank West cosplay from Dead Rising because I'm always carrying my camera, and it's like but I don't want to wear a jacket at a convention. It's too hot. So
Right.
Yeah, just constantly saying, I've shot wars,
Yeah, right. I'm trying to think if there's any other. There's the Pokemon Snap that has a camera.
That could work.
Yeah.
What's those games? The mirror frame? Fatal Frame.
Fatal Frame. Dude, that would be sick.
You're just pretending everyone's a ghost.
Yeah, pretend everyone's a ghost, dress up as a little girl,
everyone.
take their pictures, see how many points you can get.
Well, no, because you hurt the ghost with taking
right.
photos.
Well, maybe that'll be worth it. I mean, they're all dressed up like anime characters.
Jeremy, I know you're in PS1 phase, but dude, if you like Silent Hill, Fatal Frame is like incredible. It's
okay.
incredible.
Yeah. No, I haven't played any of those games, so maybe that'll be my next one.
Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterflies, like I feel it's kind of like how you can play Silent Hill 2 standalone. Like you could just dive into Fatal Frame 2, Crimson Butterfly. It is incredible.
Nice. Yeah, I want to play that, and I want to play some of the Clock Tower series games as well.
You would love that.
I'm in my survival horror era.
So I think for Clock Tower 3, I could be totally wrong, but I think Clock Tower 3, the person who directed Battle Royale, the movie, also directed that game. There's some crossover, and it's like, wait, is that real? Did a filmmaker actually was involved in this game? But yeah, Kinji Fukasaku. So I don't know if he just did cutscenes or something, but it's like that's
he was
a crazy
the director
connection.
for like the whole idea. I remember I worked on a video where he was mentioned in it, and it was like a whole thing. But yeah, he was like the director, and then there was an actual designer who was leading the game development part of it, and he was just kind of the director of Battle Royale was kind of just doing the overarching ideas and stuff. But like, yeah, what the?
That's cool. That's
it's like when Steven Spielberg did Boom Blocks. Like, why is Steve? Sure, he did. You know?
Yeah. Just signing like Vin Diesel directing. No, maybe that's actually real. But Vin Diesel, the Vin
he
Diesel
really directed
video games.
Wheelman.
Yeah. I'm all aboard. Let's get more.
We need the Ari Aster video game, dude.
Ooh, seriously.
That's
It would
what
just
we
be a
need.
game that causes anxiety. What would that be? Oh my god, just all my anxieties in a single video game. It'd be like, all right, time to do your planner. You don't have enough time to. It's like you have 30 seconds to do all these tasks. I don't know.
Yeah, just anxiety, the video game.
You mentioned there briefly, Frank, the PS1 adventure that our good friend Jeremy Jayne's been on, and you've been playing. This isn't a PS1 game, but this is a classic tactics, classic video game from back in the day. Back in the day, if you are my age, regular days, if you are a little bit older. Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
How you been liking that? It's your first time playing it, right?
Yeah, it's so good, dude. I gave Final Fantasy Tactics a shot, and I liked it, but it didn't, for whatever reason, it just didn't grab me. I now have to revisit it because I have played, God, I don't know, like 10 hours or more of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance this week. It's really, really good. Yeah, I don't know. So I've just been playing a lot of tactics RPGs in general lately. But there's something about the obviously the combat system is brilliant, but for whatever reason if the world feels more vibrant to me. Like Final Fantasy Tactics for PS1, the world is very kind of like serious, and they play it straight, and it's this kind of serious narrative about like the politics of the kingdom and all these things. And like usually I'm fucking down for that. That sounds awesome. But for whatever reason, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, also I'm not going to spoil any story elements that don't happen within the first 5 minutes of this game. The kind of famous scene from Tactics Advance is the snowball fight scene in the beginning. You're like a bunch of kids having a snowball fight, and it's teaching you how commands work and how turn order works and things like that. But then within the first couple minutes of this game, you get sucked into the world of Final Fantasy from that like real world. And I really like that's a fun story trope to me, is like a kid in the normal world sucked into like a fantasy world and then being forced to adapt. But beyond that, you're also like leading a band of essentially mercenaries around, and you have a clan. And so you're just like going around fighting other clans and doing missions. And I don't know. It's very bite-sized too. Like the battles aren't super long, but they're engaging. They require like a lot of tactical thinking and like knowing what all your units can do, and making sure you update their abilities and gear and stuff, and knowing like which jobs to have like a good team composition. I don't know. It's just like very satisfying little bite-sized tactics RPG battles. And both the Final Fantasy Tactics games are very much just, there's an overworld map. there is battle, and then there's like visiting shops and pubs and stuff. But you're not walking around in overworld. You're basically just like clicking on nodes on the map and stuff. Like to me, that kind of sounds. On the surface, that doesn't sound appealing because I like to be able to like walk around and talk to everyone and like do all that stuff in an RPG. But for whatever reason, it gives it this feel where whenever I was thinking this last night. Usually in an RPG, when you like get to a new town, you got to go around, you got to talk to everyone, and sometimes it gets a little tedious because I like RPGs with a lot of depth, but like I'd rather have like a narrow scoped game that's very deep rather than have like, oh, there's 100 NPCs here, but everyone you talk to is like, oh, the war is on. I heard there was a war.
My son died like 18 times. There's a lot of dead sons in this town.
Totally. Like everyone's just giving you like the same bit of exposition, but framed differently. So it can get tedious. Whereas in the tactics games, Final Fantasy Tactics games, you're like every time you're seeing people talk, it's either in the form of like a menu that you can quickly navigate to get what you want, or it's like a cutscene happening. And so the cutscenes are kind of like when there's dialogue happening, it feels like a little like diorama or something.
Yeah, like
I don't know.
play.
It feels very like a play is a good way of putting it. It feels very curated and I don't know. It's just wonderful. I would describe it as, I would rate it a wonderful out of 10.
I like that. It's a good rating system. We got to start using adjectives instead of numbers. I'm with you, man. I loved Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. I hate saying the full title of that. But when I was playing it on Game Boy, when I was a small, wee little lad, and I mean, the combat is a lot of fun. I like the strategy stuff, like you were saying. It's very fast and very straightforward. But I think a part of it that really appeals to me and that I keep thinking is like, no game has ever done it better, is that rules system that's built into the game, where the judge will kind of come down if you're breaking the rules, and they'll give you like a yellow card, like this is a warning, or a red card, you're out. Like it feels like you're playing a sport with rules to it, where like a lot of the times you'll play a tactics game and it's kind of just a set of things you can do to interact with enemies and attack each other and stuff, but there's no like, you can't do this. There's kind of just objectives for the combat scenario, like reach this point in the board, or stop the enemies from reaching this point in the board, or like those are the kind of special requirements that are involved in combat like that. So having a rule system where it's like, you can't do this in this, combat scenario or whatever, that was really cool. Like I don't know if I've played another game period that's like ever had a referee like that's actually interrupted the game to be like, you broke the rules, hold on a second. I like that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Well, it's also, the cool thing about it is not only is it an interesting thing mechanically, but it also it plays into the world building really well. Like,
yeah, that's right.
The way that they play it is kind of that there's like this draconian, again, not going to spoil anything. There's like this kind of draconian government that makes the laws, and then the laws, you have to check the law every time you get into a battle. So like you'll get it and it'll be like no blades, no fire magic, and then you have to adapt your whole play style around those laws. But they acknowledge it, and it becomes part of the story too. Like there are characters who are like obsessed with finding ways to break the law, and and there are characters who are obsessed with like upholding the law to like keep things in order. And it's a bizarrely clever way to tie kind of the political like world building they're doing to the mechanics. I don't know. I just think it's brilliant. I just think there's a lot of love that went into this game. It also very much feels like the era of Squaresoft that I really like, down to there's this like pixel shader effect that goes on when it shows you which characters you're going to affect with an ability, where they kind of go like silver and white and they pulse, and it's the exact same effect that was in like it's in Secret of Mana. It's in a bunch of games, but I don't know. It just like, I don't know. It just like shoots nostalgia dopamine into my brain every time I see it.
Yeah, the effects like that. Tactics Advance is definitely one of those games that like, for a Game Boy game, it kind of feels like it's definitely not one. Like the stuff that it's pulling off, how good it looks visually. I love that game. You have any experience with the Final Fantasy Tactics series, Frank?
I tried maybe at this point like 10 years ago, and I felt so dumb. Like I felt like Tactics was hard. Like, because I played other tactic games, like I feel like was it Valkyria Chronicles or like Fire Emblem Awakening. I felt Fire Emblem was like very friendly, and then like XCOM. But when I tried Tactics, it was like, man, this is really, it like kicked my ass. And so like Although I tried the PS1 version, and I'm assuming the advanced one is a little bit easier or better to manage.
I found that for sure. I've played a ton of tactics RPGs, and when I played Final Fantasy Tactics, I felt the same way where I was like, I've got to be missing something because I'm like getting my ass beat here. Tactics Advance feels to me like there's always kind of one main story mission, and then there's like a bunch of side missions you can do essentially, and so it kind of lets you pick your own difficulty. Like for a minute, I was doing every mission, and it started getting kind of easy. So I stopped doing side missions and just kept doing the mainline missions, and then it very quickly got more difficult. So it's a clever way of letting you taper the difficulty without a difficulty slider. Is just picking how much time you want to spend on doing side missions, but it doesn't feel like it feels a little. Like a better solution to grinding. Sometimes like in JRPGs, you just got to go around killing rats or whatever to get strong. And having it be like, oh, you got to hunt down this clan of bandits because they're like robbing people on the highway. Even though it's a side mission, it has just like a little bit of like narrative context that makes it feel a little more specific and special. But yeah, Tactics Advance is definitely easier in my experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember it being a lot more straightforward. I mean, it opens with a snowball fight.
Yeah,
you can't get any more like nice than that.
The intro sequence, like taking place in a contemporary world with like cars and like a supermarket and stuff in the background. I really want. I mean, maybe this happens in Tactics Advance. I'm only like 10 hours into it, but it made me think like, damn, I want a game that's just like takes place in that world. Like because as much as I love the high fantasy stuff and like go in and there's like the Mughals and all this shit, I kind of want a world where it's just like I would love a 90s early 2000s Squaresoft game where you're just like in the real world and that people have like rifles and shit. Like a Spanish Civil War era Squaresoft tactics RPG. That's my dream game, honestly. That's kind of what I'm trying to fucking make.
Yeah, you should totally do that because I feel like you're kind of in that realm.
That's kind of the vibe I'm going for.
Yeah, which I love. I love that kind of like, it almost feels like a Russian or kind of like Eastern Bloc kind of tactics RPG thing. Cannot wait to see more of that. But you know what? You got me thinking, man, where is the Scott Pilgrim strategy RPG? Where is the Scott Pilgrim Tactics, dude? Because that snowball fight, you could totally just make a whole game around that and just have that be like Scott's one ability is throwing a snowball.
Yeah, I would play that.
I feel like kind of close to like the South Park RPG, which I played the first one, and that one, because there's literally snowball fights and stuff. I didn't play the second one, but I should totally.
You didn't play the
that.
Fractured Butthole. You didn't play that one.
No, I need to get into that because that reminds it. And then Jeremy talked about real world stuff. I think again that's why Earthbound is like one of the best games ever because it's like the most like, especially if you play it when you're young. It's like, oh, I'm a like little kid. Yeah, let's go to my friend's house, and it's such a realistic experience, and then it gets so weird. Yeah, my thought with Final Fantasy Tactics is I really want to try it, and it's like, oh, maybe I wait for a Steam Deck, and then I get in on that and try it that way. Because that sounds perfect. But but again, I like this ongoing discussion we've had of just like revisiting games older that we missed the first time, and now I feel like I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty good at picking up new games quickly now. Like I'm less stubborn. I'm open to so many systems. The more games you play, the better you can recognize stuff. So it's like, okay, if I feel like now, if I try Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, I feel like I could stick with it. It's also the thing where it's like the game came out in 2003. So how can something like 19 years old outsmart me? It's like, I got this. Oh, come on. There's been so much advancement. I have an iPhone. Like I can handle this shit now.
I have an iPhone. How the hell can I not beat Final Fantasy Tactics?
It's like cheating on a test. I mean, I guess that's what I did when I would go through all these games like a decade ago. I would have IGN walkthroughs on the second screen. So, yeah. Hey, by any means necessary. By any means necessary.
Right.
Yeah. The cut to me in 1990, whatever, calling the Nintendo helpline because I can't get past like the Second Temple and Link to the Past.
I had to go to my dad's office and print off game facts and like his like real estate agency at like 1996. Just using the company's resources and internet to print off like Earthworm Jim strategy.
I remember being like the people on the helpline I only called one time if I recall correctly because it was like $1 a minute. Yeah. So my parents were like, make sure you write down your question first because this is fucking, you're burning money here. But I remember being like in reverence of those people as a kid, which is funny because like it's just someone, they didn't like make the game or anything, but I remember being like, hello sir, like I need some help with your game, like.
But speaking of tactics RPGs, I just real quick want to hop in here. Triangle strategy is something I've been bringing up for the last couple months, weeks, that I've been touching and kind of getting to whenever I have the chance. I've been house sitting for the last week and a half now with my fiance at my mother-in-law's house, and it's been, fun. There's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of chores. They have a very exciting, busy life of feeding stray animals and a dog and fish and watering a whole garden worth of stuff. But because I can't bring my whole PlayStation and Xbox and my nice TV to this house, I decided to bring my Nintendo Switch because, I mean, that's what it's made for, right? Is to switch it out of the dock and play it on the couch. You heard, yeah, you can have that one for free, Nintendo. Take that recorder. That one's for you guys. But so I decided to finally really dive deep and play Triangle Strategy. I have not finished it yet. I am quite far into it, though. I had to Google something because I didn't know what I was doing. About halfway through the game, Jeremy, you mentioned how Final Fantasy Tactics, the original game, had this had this thing that you tend to like, where it's very serious and it's got like a lot of deep political stuff going on. It's like, this is a serious story for serious adults. This game is like, wow. The story going on in Triangle Strategy, I think, is kind of the thing that you sign up for in this game. It feels like it's in the name, it's strategy, right? It feels like you're coming into a game that's supposed to be all about tactics. It's supposed to be all about how do I most effectively deal damage to a series of enemies near my characters. Realistically, this is like a visual novel where every 30 minutes you get into like a kind of interesting combat scenario. It has a lot of good interactions. You pick up a lot of characters along the way, similarly to how you do in Tactics Advance, but you don't buy them. You just, find them through these little stories that you do while you're walking around. There's no overworld map, but there are these like little dioramas that you kind of play around. And so basically the idea of Triangle Strategy is that you're playing as this kid, Serenoa. His father is the leader of House Wolfort, and you live in this world where there's three kingdoms. There's Glenbrook, which is like, come on. And then Esfrost and then Hyzant. And like they're all fighting over this salt mine. This is like the currency of the world is salt because they need it to make weapons and make bombs and cure meat. And salt has so many things it can do. And there's this tight alliance and peace that goes on. And then guess what? Not anymore. No spoilers, but stuff happens. It's very cool. Narratively, it is as deep, I would argue, as like season 1, season 2 of Game of Thrones. Like, there's no weird incest going on, but it is like very much an exciting story with some very interesting choices. This is something that I thought was really surprising about it, is like, for a game where so much of it, the combat is supposed to be about thinking about what to do tactically in combat and like thinking really hard about where do I want my characters to go? What characters do I want to come out at the same time? You are still making very like deep, challenging choices that do actually skewer the narrative, and like they have this path that shows you what choices you've made and where they've led along the narrative path. Things that you didn't do like 10 hours ago will kick you in the ass like randomly when you need information that you weren't able to get because you didn't go to this place. Like early on, what kingdom do you want to go to because you start in Glenbrook? Do you want to go to Esfrost or Hyzant or whatever? And that hurts you later if you don't go to one or the other. It's like it's just narratively very, very cool. But then on top of that, there's a really good strategy game. And it's a lot more straightforward than I think. And Frank, this might be one to go to first before you go to Tactics on the PS1. But it's a lot more straightforward. It's very like, just where do you want your guy to go? Backstab somebody. If there's a unit in front of that unit and you backstab the unit you're attacking, your friend will help and will do an extra attack. So like, there's not a whole lot to really master, but it feels really good when you pull it off. And even when you're losing, there are so many mechanics in place and different character interactions that you can do that allow you to have these really tense combat scenarios. Like there's one character that you unlock who can build ladders, and like a big thing in strategy games, especially Tactics Advance or Final Fantasy Tactics style ones, is that there's these elevation levels to maps and you can't jump too far, you can't jump too high, you can't fall too far, you can't jump too high. So, you do kind of have to play around that, but then they give you a character that lets you build, a ladder so you can climb up stuff. And enemies I don't think can use it, but like there's stuff like that. There was one combat scenario I was in. It was an ambush randomly in the story. And it just like, I was like, this is it. I'm done. Like I can't possibly beat all these guys. There's no permadeath or anything. When you fail, you keep all your XP. But there is this like level of caring towards the characters because you do spend so much time talking to them and learning about their, things that they're into and their side stories and everything. It's very neat. So you do kind of feel an attachment to them. And I didn't want to quit this combat scenario. I don't even think you can. But it was just 2 characters left against 8 people. And I was like, there's no way I can pull this off. But dude, fucking did it. Like, it feels so good when you nail that kind of thing in a strategy RPG where you're playing it for like the same combat scenario for like 10 minutes and you cannot make it work. and then you're like, oh, holy shit, I put the ladders in the right spots, or like I've got enough attack points so I can do 2 hawk dives, or I can use my quietest points. Like there's a bunch of ways to interact with it to make it feel like you're bitch, like you're just owning this game in a really good way. I don't know. It's really, really fun. I think, Jeremy, you were kind of talking about it on Twitter with somebody. I think I saw the interaction where they were saying it's very text heavy at the start. First 30 minutes, yeah, it's like maybe a tutorial thing. And then it's like, here's all the stuff I explained with all the worlds and kingdoms and everything. But once you get past that, it is very engrossing. It's a very good time. You'll like it when you get to it.
Awesome.
Does it have a quick save system, or can you save scrub?
You know what?
Bounce?
You can't save scrub. I'm like 95% sure you can't quit in the middle of a combat scenario, period. Because I tried to for a couple of them. I was experimenting with something. Again, don't want to spoil anything, but there's like a combat scenario where if you follow a certain path, you have to do something kind of messed up to win the fight, which is really cool. And like, I think you can win it without doing that messed up thing, but it's way harder. You have to grind your ass off. Speaking of which, there's not a lot of opportunities to grind in this. It's kind of just, here's your combat scenario, do the combat scenario. There's levels, but it doesn't matter. Like, you know, there's mental mock battles, they call them, which are like fake fights that you do for this tavern person that you bring around with you in an encampment. You suddenly just like build an entire encampment no matter where you are, and you talk to these people right before a fight. You can be like, hold on, guys, give me 10 minutes. I gotta talk to my blacksmith. But yeah, it's like there is no save scumming, to answer your question. There is no save scumming. There is no like, you know, go back to this. You can keep saves. There's multiple slots, but if you're in the middle of a fight, you can't go like, I didn't like what I did 5 turns ago. I don't like that shit. Yeah, you got to stick with you have consequences to your actions. But nobody dies permanently, except for in the story, in a classic JRPG move. Nobody dies. You can deal a million damage. No one dies in a fight. But as soon as you're outside of a fight, one person gets like an arrow in their back, and they're like, well, that's it for me. I had a good time.
Something that would do like 2 damage in a normal fight. They're like, oh, this is the end for me. I know I like killed 1,000 men in this journey, but here I go. Yeah, that game sounds awesome. I am keen to pick it up. I feel like I'm giving myself like, I've always liked tactics RPGs in theory, but I've played very few of them. So I feel like now I'm going back and kind of giving myself a history lesson on them. So I feel like I need to earn triangle strategy. I haven't earned it yet. You know,
that's fair.
I'm eating my salad. I can't have my dessert. The ice cream is over there waiting in the freezer for me.
You got to suffer a little bit first. Yeah. Actually, Tactics Ogre is getting a remake, something soon for the end of the year. So that'll be good to hop into as well if you like the Final Fantasy Tactics style thing. I think that predates the first Final Fantasy Tactics by a couple years, maybe like 2 years. It's a little bit older in design, but you'll probably end up liking it if you like tactics.
Can I briefly explain in 60 seconds one more tactics RPG that I like?
Please.
So I have been playing like an absurd amount of Gloomhaven with my friends. Gloomhaven is a game that it takes inspiration from tabletop RPGs. It is a hex-based like tabletop, essentially board game. It's basically just like the dungeon combat element of like a D&D kind of thing. All the road encounter stuff where it's like, you see a man on the side, do you help him? Like that stuff is very light in Gloomhaven. It is basically a binary choice. So that's not the focus at all. And all that does is add combat modifiers. But the combat itself is it's basically like up to 4 heroes, so you can play it with 4 friends. It's like it balances with the amount of people. So I'm playing it just me and 2 friends, so there's 3 of us. So the game balances for that. But basically, there's a video game adaptation of this board game. I mistakenly thought this was like an old tabletop game from like the 80s. I think it was like crowdfunded in 2015. So they fooled me. It feels very, you know, like traditional tabletop, but it is truly one of the greatest combat systems I've ever played in a game, ever in my entire life. Every single time we pass an encounter, I'm like, holy shit, I thought there was no way we were going to pull that off. It is always by the skin of our teeth. And yeah, I mean, it's just like, I literally, like, it's become a meme now where me and my friends will finish an encounter and be like, that was the most well-balanced thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's got a very clever system where all of the skills you use are card-based. So they're like these skill cards, and there's a top half and a bottom half to every card, different skills. So essentially what you have to do is you can pick 2 cards per turn before you see what the enemy is going to do, and you can use top half of one, bottom half of the other. But after you use those cards, you discard them. And so there's a system where you have to go through all your cards, discard, and then you have to burn one of those cards for the rest of the encounter to get all your discards back. And so essentially what happens is the knot is tightening as the encounter goes on. So by the end, you have like 4 cards left that aren't burned left to go through. And once you run out of cards, once all your cards are burned, if you have less than 2 cards, you're exhausted, so you die. So it has this interesting system where as the dungeons get harder through like each room, like by the last room, it's probably the hardest one. But then the problem is that, you have like 4 skill cards left because you've burned everything. So it's very much about like management of your time, of your ability cards, and coordinating with your friends. We've been joking that it's like the model UN when we decide what to do for each turn, because we're like, all right, well, I'm gonna stun that guy, but if you can do 5 damage to that guy, he won't hit me. But if so and so is here, then they can prevent. So it's just like it's really fun to coordinate with friends, and it's one of those games where it's just like it's the joy of it is taking a ton of time to plan out each move, because then when you perfectly execute and you roll like the +2 modifier that kills the guy who was going to kill you, and like it feels so satisfying to skate through. It's one of those games that makes you feel very smart when you succeed. And I think it's kind of hard. We just killed we're like 20% of the way through the game and just killed a boss, and the Steam achievement for it was like 6.7% of people have this.
Nice.
So I feel like a lot of people bounce off it because it's fucking hard. But yeah, check out Gloomhaven. It is one of my favorite games I've ever played. I've played like 70 hours of it the last few weeks.
Wow, high praise. That's awesome.
Yeah,
because there's
really
that new Citizen Sleeper DLC. You haven't even touched that yet, eh?
I have not. Yeah,
This is just
it's
taking
tough
you
for
over.
me. I will play that. I definitely will play that. It is tough for me to go back to games for DLC. I don't know what it is, especially story games. It's tough for me to like re-immerse myself.
Yeah.
But I get why the DLC model works, especially for a small team where they're like, they weren't going to take the extra 3-4 months to like make that part of the base game, because there's budgets, and you gotta get those games out at some point. But
This costs money.
Yeah, exactly. It costs a lot of money and time to make games, but I will go back and play it. I just have to I just gotta dive in at some point. It's hard for me to get in the right mindset.
For sure. Well, Gloomhaven sounds good. What's it on Steam?
It is on Steam, and also on
And also on the real world
media.
if you want to go grab that. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is it is such a rules-heavy game that I almost think the video game version is probably a much improved experience. I'm sure sitting around and like getting drunk with your friends and playing this game is really fun, but it is like, we jokingly call it Rule Haven, because it is constantly like, okay, well, I'm gonna hit that guy and pull him 1 because there's a trap there. Oh, but he's a flying enemy, so he's flying, so the trap won't work on him. But so and so has this ability where they can use traps to like deploy on enemies. But if I deploy the trap and throw it at him, will that work because he's flying? It's like you're constantly like hive minding with your team to make sure that you understand every parameter of the turn that's about to unfold. So yeah, like I said, it's model UN. But fun.
So, we've been talking a little bit about these older games. Frank every week has been bringing up this fantastic adventure that he's been on. I want to ask him about it because he's got this listed here. You have Destroy All Humans listed here. Is this part of Project Xbox?
Yeah, I guess so. So I am playing the remake of it, but it is a game that was originally released on Xbox 2005. This came out like 6 months or 5 months before the Xbox 360. So I feel like there was a lot of games 2005, 2006 that were released on the previous gen that I just completely ignored, because it's like, I'm not going to play this old crap. I'm done. I'm saving my money for the 360. Or I think I was playing World of Warcraft at this point, so I was not touching consoles anymore until the new stuff was coming out. But yeah, Destroy All Humans had been on Game Pass for like a while, and there's something like, I don't know, kind of it is like the definitive B game. Like there's something schlocky of just like, I think you're an alien, you kill people, let me check it out. And it's exactly that. Like it also kind of feels like a Saints Row game, but you do mission select, and there's like maybe 5 or 6 open world areas, but the maps aren't too big. It feels like there's like 50 missions in the game, and you can do a mission in like 5 or 10 minutes. Like there's like a cutscene that introduces it. You play an alien, and your objective is to destroy all humans.
What?
But it takes place in like the 50s or 60s, so it has this very like cheesy like, oh my gosh, what's that thing over there, Susie? Look out! Like it's
fantastic.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's charming. Like, and it's really great because like I feel like there's a lot of games like you know, like I downloaded Stray and I was eager to play it, but it's like, oh, this is like, I need to like focus and there's objectives, and it's not a hard game, but it's just like, oh, this is a little too linear. I need something that I just turn off my brain and blow stuff up. Destroy All Humans is perfect for that. So yeah, if you have Game Pass, I recommend it. I think even now the remake's been out for a while, so it's probably like $20 or less. But yeah, it's a solid B game. If you like Saints Row, I feel like it's closest to that, where it's just like silly juvenile humor. It also kind of feels like a Tony Hawk game where you have objectives like instead of like collect the 5 skate, it's like blow up 5 cows, and you have to skate around, you have to run around and 5 cows and blow them up or whatever. And you can even unlock a hoverboard, so if you hold B, your alien is just gliding around, and it's like, oh, wait a minute,
shit,
this
I gotta play
this
that.
is scratching. It really feels like playing Tony Hawk Underground or something. And now Destroy All Humans 2, the remake, comes out I think at the end of the month, and I think that takes place in like the 60s or 70s. So I think Destroy All Humans 1 is like 50s, like almost like, oh man, I don't want to get like U.S. history stuff wrong, but it's like, I feel like very JFK era, like pre-Cold War, or maybe, yeah, pre-Cold War. And then I think Destroy All Humans 2 is like hippie era, so I think late 60s, maybe pre-Vietnam or during Vietnam, I can't recall, but I'm excited to see where the vibe goes. And then I looked that there was a Destroy All Humans released on 360, but apparently that's like really bad. So I'm just gonna stick with these remakes. But yeah, did anyone else ever play Destroy All Humans?
No, I'm aware of it, but I've never touched it.
Yeah, same. I haven't played it myself. It is the kind of thing that I saw every time I went to Blockbuster. I was like, oh man, yeah, that looks sick, dude. It's an alien. It's called Destroy. I love destroying all humans. Big fan. I mean, yeah, it kind of came out in that era of games where they were very juvenile on purpose, like blowing things up for fun, and not just like obviously the game is very tongue in cheek. I've seen cutscenes and everything. It's like we know that we're being dumb. But when I saw footage of this, it reminded me of Stubbs the Zombie. You guys remember that game at all?
Oh, yeah.
That's the other one I need to play. Same era that also got like a remaster in the last year. Yeah, like they're like, I feel like that should come in a combo pack.
Totally. Yeah, that's the exact thing you would see at like the $5 bin at Walmart. Stubbs the Zombie and Destroy All Humans for $5 with a big sticker on it. Yeah, Stubbs the Zombie's great. It's got, you can detach your arm and attach it to people's heads and take over their bodies. It's a fun time.
Ew.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got the same 1950s, 1960s kind of era stuff.
So like, I feel like that's the next game I got to check out. But yeah, again, there's just something fun about like playing like a simple game. Also, maybe this also leaned into it, but before that, I finished Dead Rising 3, so zombies. So it's like,
oh, nice.
There's just something fun about just killing a bunch of things in games, or just, I don't know, just not taking it seriously.
Oh, that's such a good point.
There's so many new releases now where it's like, oh, it's trying to tell such a serious story, and that's awesome when I have the mental space for it. But right now, it's like I'm just tired. I just want to just shoot stuff and get minutes.
There's nothing more fun than blowing the shit out of everything, right? I mean, come on. That's all video games that are fun, man. I love just blowing stuff. Or like those madness games that you'd play on Flash on your computer.
Oh, yeah.
Or just like blow stuff. You're just shooting stuff. Something fun about that.
The next game I'll play, and I'll probably report on this more next week, but it's called like Bright Future Infinite. No, Bright Memory Infinite.
Oh, yes. Okay.
This is a, I think Chinese, I don't know if it's Hong Kong, I think Chinese developed game that is it honestly feels like Titanfall. You play a lady for a government agency who's trying to prevent an evil military group of baddies from like taking over a black hole. It has some complete nonsensical sci-fi plot,
right.
But the gameplay is fast and crazy like Titanfall. You have grappling hooks, you have telekinesis, you're shooting stuff. It feels like Call of Duty's aimed in sights. You have a sword, you can hack and slash. It kind of is the ultimate like pick up and play game. You level up your stuff. I just started it for like 30 minutes, but I'm gonna keep playing it. But that is like immediately hitting the scratch, and it's only $20. So. But yeah, I think that's gonna be the next game I check out. Bright Memory Infinite. It was on early access on Steam for years, but I guess they just finished it and now it's out. But nice. Yeah, I'm just in the mood for quick arcadey games.
Yeah, I remember there was a demo and it was like an hour long or something. So this must be a little bit longer. It looks fantastic. One of the prettiest games I've ever seen, honestly. Real quick there, you mentioned Stray, and I promise I'll actually be quick this time. Yeah. That game's fantastic. I love playing as cats. Stray, we were talking about it a little bit before it released. We all were kind of a little excited. Jeremy, I remember you mentioning it, but you haven't played it yet, right?
I'm too engrossed in tactics, dude. The only language I speak right now is tactics. All right.
If the cat did tactics RPG stuff, you'd be all over it. Eh?
Yeah. Does the cat have tactics cards that you deploy?
Unfortunately, no. Although that might have been a better game. Not knocking Stray. I really like Stray. I'm just saying, everything needs cards. That's my opinion. But yeah, Stray is a third-person platformer adventure game. It kind of feels like you're playing just a classic adventure game, but with, you know, controls in a 3D world and everything. You're playing as Jeremy's alley cat, Orange Man bad or good, right? Orange Man.
Yeah, my stray cat in the back. Oh my God, is the stray cat from my backyard in this game?
Yeah,
dude?
that's the one you play as. There's no cat.
Oh my God, I didn't realize he was a star.
Yeah, you were missing out. That's what he's doing in Los Angeles, or in California rather.
Damn, I haven't seen him in a while, so I thought he was busy, but
he's busy doing mocap for
I'm happy for him.
for Blue 12 Studios or whatever. I think that's the name of the studio. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It's gorgeous world. Like, you start out in this sort of slums dystopic area after you do this sort of tutorial where you're hanging out with a bunch of other cats. I really, really like playing this game. Because if Destroy All Humans is a game about destroying things on purpose, this is a game about destroying things on accident. And how cats are just assholes constantly for like no stupid reason. Like, half the game it's not a game about doing specific tasks. Like, there are things that you have to do, like you have to find this many items or whatever. But the joy of playing Stray is kind of like jumping up on a windowsill and knocking over a bunch of bottles and they land and they shatter. Or like you see a rug and you can interact with it and you can put your claws in and you do the little, you know, cats sharpening their claws or whatever. And like, if you play on PS5, the DualSense triggers kind of kick in. So the pulls take a little bit more effort. So it's like it makes you feel like a cat. Or you can like walk on the keyboard and like the little keyboard clacks play on the controller. And like, it, you know, it doesn't write anything that makes any sense because it's a cat on a keyboard. But like it really, I know there's that dumb line about Spider-Man 2018. I kind of referenced it there a second ago, but it really does make you feel like a kitty cat. It's a really, really good game. It's very short too. It's only 5 hours. If you've got the PlayStation Plus, Gold, Premium, Extra Plus, whatever the hell the tiers are called. If you've got that, it's free there, so you can pick it up there. That's how I played it. $40 seems a little steep for some people because it is a rather short experience, but I mean, hey, I would spend $40 for a perfectly tight 5-hour game instead of spending 80 on one that, you know, takes 100 hours and I have maybe 5 hours of fun.
True.
So, I will say it feels like you're watching like an incredibly animated it's like Spike Jonze sci-fi film. Like, it's like, this is really cool. Like, all the shots are great, all the events. Like, it's funny playing it. It feels like all of the like in between character moments of like a Naughty Dog game, like The Last of Us, when you're in like the town and maybe you have to turn on a generator, but it has just that high quality like interactions. There's so much character interactions, and like, again, I've been playing so many games just for the feel, but this is one where the story is actually captivating. It's like, oh wait, what happened to all the humans, or were there ever humans? But like, you're like pulling memories and you're showing robots memories, and it's like, oh, this is cool. And I feel like story and thematic wise, it feels kind of like Nier Automata, where you're just interacting with robots, and it's like there's this melancholy in the air, but you're just a cat, and it kind of punctures that, and like robots are charmed by it, and you can rub up on them, and it's like, so I do want to play more of this. I just need to, like, I guess treat it like a book or a movie, but like, yeah, like it is gorgeous, and just like the shot compositions, because there's some times where it'll kind of steer your camera, and like robots are reacting to you, and it's like, oh, this is like this feels like I'm just watching a movie. This is really cool. Mm-hmm. So I recommend it, and then I did get it through the PlayStation Platinum. I have no one knows what the service
stupid
is called.
names.
PlayStation Alpha and Omega.
Oh my God. Yeah. So yeah, I'm eager to check it out more, but yeah, Stray. And I think it's an Annapurna game, right?
It is. Yeah. Published by Annapurna Interactive. It's on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Steam. It is. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I love it so much. It is probably one of the most interesting games I've played this year in terms of like scale and everything. Like, once I finished it, I was so blown away by how good the cat looked, like how well animated it was, and how everything it did felt legit. Like, it feels like you're looking at a movie of a cat, like you're just watching footage of it. But I got really into it, and there was this whole like thing with the animations and everything, like, look really good. And I was surprised to find out that doing quadruped animation, like doing animation of something with 4 legs that walks on the ground with all 4 legs, is actually really, really hard to pull off. I started watching some GDC talks about what goes into doing that, because, you know, everything has bipedal characters, everything walks around on 2 legs in games. There's a million procedural systems set up to make that work properly and look good. But there's like a lot of deep equations and serious math that goes into just pulling it off to make it look okay. And this game makes it look perfect. I do wonder if the reason it's a cat, not a dog, is because cats are kind of more fluid, so you can get away with kind of wonky turn angles and stuff, and it doesn't look awkward because cats look awkward anyways. But yeah, no, this is a very interesting game that's got my noggin jogging. I'm having a good time playing it. And I immediately upon finishing it, I was looking up mods. I was like, what are people doing with this? Not only are people modding in their own cats, people are modding cats into other games. You can play the stray cat in Doom, the original Doom. You can play as the cat walking around shooting stuff with your little robot buddy that you find in Stray, shooting at things. And now I'm like, I kind of want a cat and everything.
Has anyone put Garfield into Stray yet?
They have.
Wow. Oh, have they really?
Yes, dude. You can play as Garfield if you get the PC version. You can load that up and play as Garfield. There's Spyro. There's like any cat you can think of. The cat's in there. The non-cats. I want someone to put Doom Guy in Stray now, though. That's what I really want on all fours.
No, that'd be good. To your note about four-legged animation, if I recall correctly, because I was looking up some of the stuff for pixel art animation, I think the way that you animate it, so it's obviously different for 3D because it has to adhere to the like topology of the ground it's stepping on. But the thing that demystified it for me is it's two sets of legs that are walking independently. So it's the way you animate it is almost pretend that there's like two dudes in a horse costume and they're both just walking at slightly offset angles, because it's basically just like left, right for both of them, but they're offset timing. But yeah, no, that I don't know if it's procedurally animated because I haven't played Stray and seen enough footage to judge it. But the way that stuff is done is really interesting. I've been looking into it as well, where you basically build like a procedurally animated rig, and then you create invisible targets essentially that move as you're moving the character forward, and then the legs essentially are trying to do their best to pick up and replace themselves where the target is, but it's tapered by the distance. So as the essentially you're like moving these targets, and the procedurally animated character is trying to put its legs or put its feet rather on the targets, and it's basically just following it. So it's really interesting. Yeah, people should look up procedural animation and stuff. It's really fascinating to see how that stuff works.
Totally. Yeah, I think it's just anything like that. Anything about procedural anything is always interesting to look into because there's so many ways to interpret it and how it works and everything. Yeah. Game technology is cool. We should do more interviews with people that do that kind of stuff and get them to talk in depth on it, because I think that shit's super fascinating.
True.
Real quick before we hop to emails, Frank, you got something listed here about games on the horizon. Do you want to talk about that? You want to talk about stuff that's coming up soon?
It's funny. Like I've been going to conventions, and like I feel like at PAX I'll be able to play a bunch of like forthcoming stuff. But like I realized like I've just been kind of playing the same stuff on my Xbox for a while. It's like what are the new games coming out? Because I feel like we're about to enter like the next heavy release cycle. I mean, Stray just came out. The other big game that just came out, and it's on Switch, so it's like, should I get this for my trips? But yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, early buzz on Twitter is like people are actually saying it's really good. I think the one criticism I heard was like opening as tutorial heavy, but once you're in, I heard just praise for the soundtracks, because Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is incredible. 2 I did not like, even though I put like 20, 30 hours into it.
Is it because 2's too horny? Is that what it is?
No. Mithra or whatever her name is.
Yeah, a little too much. A little too much.
No, is she back? That was like that was awesome. No, I like that. But no, they added a gacha system and stuff. Like, I don't know. I just never cared about the story in 2. I just did not like. Wait, didn't Mithra change? I don't know. Maybe.
Well, there's like a weapon that you have that she's in now, right? Like the main character.
So weird. Yeah. But I think that you have to be weird to be a JRPG. You have to be,
that's
fantasy
part of the rules.
And think outside. But yeah, I'm curious if any listeners or anyone's played Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm also always intimidated. We had this conversation last week about JRPGs. Where in my head, I think it's going to be 80 hours, but I need to train myself. That's like, I don't have to sit down and play for 80 hours. I can just play 4 hours and like go back. Like, I need to rework my brain. But yeah, maybe I should check that out. But I'm curious if it's good. But yeah, because I really liked 1. I even played it a handful of 2, but yeah, 3 is cool. I want to check that out. And then we talked about tactics RPGs. This isn't coming out for another like 2 or 3 months, but I think the studio that made XCOM, it's Marvel's Midnight Suns, so it's a comic book tactics RPG with like Ghost Rider and Wolverine and Blade. Like, I am all in on that. But that's
Have you seen any gameplay footage of that, Frank?
Has there been gameplay? I've seen like, I don't know. I feel like it's been marketed forever, but I don't know if I've seen it in action.
So I was super hyped for that. I saw like the original trailer. I like the idea. Marvel video games, I feel like there's not a lot of good new ones lately.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to check that out. I thought Guardians of the Galaxy was cool, but this was something I saw and I was like, wow. And then I saw gameplay footage of it and I'm like, I don't know anymore. So it's a card-based tactics game, which sounds cool, but it's like, I don't know. Just watch the footage. It's not for me.
Yeah.
It might be fun. But I immediately, all my hype was lost when I saw the gameplay footage, which sucks.
Maybe that's why they delayed it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. But it is the summer of games. Still a lot of stuff coming out. August is
It's still going.
summer games, baby, never ends. It's going to be
Never
December.
stops,
We're still
dude.
going to call it summer.
Yeah, we're
games.
gonna be
Summer
saying that on
games.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the summer of love, and everyone's the summer of games.
Hell
Year
yeah,
round.
dude.
But August is kind of indie game Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, there's so many hot things coming out next month. Cult of the Lamb is coming out, which if you haven't played the demo, you got to check that out. Very cool, kind of Binding of Isaac meets Cult Simulator. I don't know how else to say that, but it's very cool. Like you do half the game is, I haven't played the full thing, obviously I only played the demo, but half the game is you have this cult, obviously, that you run with like all these followers that you manipulate, which sounds a little messed up, but like it is the reality of it. You make them perform tasks, so they're sort of automated, like they'll go gather resources and then you can have them build stuff while you're out. And then the second half of the game is like a Binding of Isaac style, combat game where you find random weapons and different abilities that allow you to do cool stuff, and there's like merchants that you meet. It's really cool. You should check out the demo if it's still available. But along with that, Roller Drome's coming out next month. Curse to Golf, Immortality from Sam Barlow, new game. Can't wait. It's all about video editing. I love that. And Tinykin. So there's a lot of cool indies coming out next month, and then not a whole lot for the rest of the year. Everything kind of got pushed to 2023, March and April. It seems like, or at least the end of Q1 is when we'll see a lot of stuff. But God of War Ragnarok, November 9th, and the Callisto Protocol, December 2nd.
Ooh, nice.
Maybe. We'll see.
Nice. Cult of the Lamb looks really, really good. I haven't played the demo yet because I kind of want to just wait for the full release at this point. But I am interested in more games that do like colony sim hybrids.
Yeah.
And that game seems to me like a kind of a, like a top down, it's action RPG is the wrong word, but like Binding of Isaac adjacent kind of beat 'em up or top down, whatever you want to call it, action game, but with like very light kind of colony sim elements to it. And when I really like RimWorld and games like that, and I think that more people need to do kind of like genre hybrids with the colony sim genre, because it's like the one thing in RimWorld that fell flat a little bit for me is the combat, because it feels very kind of it's mostly just RNG driven. Like you arm your dudes with weapons and then you just kind of hope for the best, and it's a lot of just like watching them shoot at each other and miss for 10 minutes until someone dies. But RimWorld, obviously, like fucking all-time great, like brilliant game, but I'd like to see people take that genre in some different directions. So Cult of the Lamb seems like it's tapering way back on the colony sim stuff and reallocating that to some sort of like actiony stuff. So yeah, a really cool hybrid. I'm excited to play that.
Totally. Yeah, you're gonna love it. It's very cool art style as well. Looks gorgeous. It's a good time. I can't wait for it. I'm probably gonna get the physical and then double dip and get the digital, because I'm a big baby boy when it comes to beautiful indie games. Yeah. And to your point about RimWorld, by the way, if the combat stuff you don't like, there's a new game called, I don't know if it's new, it might be new, called Clan Folk. I only saw it a couple weeks ago. It's RimWorld, but if you were like a Scottish farmer, it looks really cool.
Wow.
I really want it. I don't know if it's Scottish, actually. I think you're just like a farmer. You have like a small area that you cover. And it's a lot more focused on the story and like character interactions and relationships and stuff. It's not super, super deep like RimWorld is. Obviously, it hasn't had the time that RimWorld's had, but it looks really cool. It looks like something that you might want to check out.
What's the name of that one? Say it over.
Clan Folk.
Hopefully that's with a C and not with a K.
One more thing before we hop into emails. Sorry, I know. Sorry. But Frank, you've got this book listed here. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, I guess a quick plug is I picked up Chuck Klosterman's The 90s. So Chuck Klosterman's a pop culture critic who puts out a book of just, centric essays every few years. His new one is on a subject I'm obsessed with, the 90s, and it's just a fun collection of essays of like everything from like the Gulf War to Michael Jordan to like the early internet, and it's just incredibly well researched, because I thought like, yeah, I know everything about this stuff, but like I think he knew how well trodden all these topics were, so he really made an effort to like make unique connections. Like there's a really awesome essay on Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, East Coast, West Coast hip hop wars. Just like a lot of stuff that's always been fascinating, but like it just hasn't been relevant for a while. There's an awesome essay on the video store, Blockbuster, Quentin Tarantino, and again like a lot of topics I'm familiar with, but he makes the writing pop. And so yeah, I really dig it. And I've torn through like 200 pages in a few days. Like still have a handful more to go. The essay on the internet also ties into the Unabomber, and it's just like, oh, this is all so fat. Yeah, because like his whole thing, he was so anti-technology. So it just talks about how all that was dawning at the same time. So, and then I found out he had a book about the early aughts called X, and it's like, oh, what? Like, because as I was reading this book, I'm like, I could, yeah, I want to read the next one of this, and then he already did that. So it's like so I might dive right into that next. But it's just always really funny, like specifically with 90s stuff, because like when I'm a kid, I was so naive to all of this stuff. That's why I really like American Crime Story, because it went through like the O.J. Simpson trial, Bill Clinton, not Gucci, Versace.
Yeah.
So it's just fun reliving it, because it just feels like, again, it's like filling the gaps. It's like, oh, now I understand. Like a whole chapter on George H.W. Bush was like, oh yeah, okay, this is I get it now. This is fascinating. So yeah, I always like reading fun like social science books or pop culture books. So yeah, I was really surprised, because like I picked it up from the library being like, I don't know, I got so much other stuff to read, but I couldn't put it down, and now I'm like, what's the next chapter going to be? What am I going to learn about next? So yeah, Chuck Klosterman's the 90s. I really like it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking at the description here, and there's like, yeah, he's talking about Seinfeld and like 9/11, like pre 9/11 politics and the rise of the internet, like you said. Like, this sounds like there's a lot of really interesting essays in this.
A whole chapter about just like cell phones and voicemails and just like how our culture shifted. And it's like, oh yeah,
that's
like,
awesome.
They're like, I think one of the thing was talking about how like, you know, more people watch any given episode of Seinfeld than the Game of Thrones finale. Just how like,
oh wow,
yeah, just like how much less content there was back in the old days. So every piece of media was so significant, even films, until the video store exploded. And now there was a million films, but it's just like, yeah, no, it's just kind of a fun refresher that isn't trite. It's like, oh, this is actually like deeper than just, hey, remember this? Because that's like, you know, I indulge in that kind of conversation too. But it's like, okay, it is deeper. So yeah, it's one really fascinating thing that I feel like Jeremy would dig is in the essay on the internet. They talked about there was an essay published by like a collective on the early internet that was called the Declaration of the Independence of Cyberspace.
Oh, dude, yeah, this is I totally know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and it's like, so it's just little things like that I never heard about, and so I read this piece, and it's like kind of this incredible manifesto about the internet, how like. I don't know. The internet is not governed by your people. It is made by us, and no one shall rule us. It actually kind of reads like an anonymous message, but the hope is there. Also covers like Coast to Coast and conspiracy theories and X-Files. It's just like everything in the book is cool. It is awesome.
Man.
Frank, you know what you'd really like is this is kind of off topic, but I'll give it a quick recommendation because I think you'd enjoy it a lot. Is Mark Fisher's Capitalist Realism.
Ooh.
It is he's kind of like Mark Fisher has passed away, but he was a kind of like philosopher, cultural theorist. And the opening, I think it's in the opening chapter, there's a really good bit where he's talking about the way in which capitalism subsumes like cultural forces which oppose capitalism. And basically like anything that pushes back against the status quo can be subsumed and then used to reinforce the status quo. And one of my favorite examples, and when I say favorite, I mean it's horribly depressing, is Kurt Cobain. And he talks about how Kurt Cobain was kind of this figure where his whole thing was like, the world is fucked, man, and like it's all fucked. But then he became a mega pop star, like on the level of the Beatles. And so, and it became like his brand. And so MTV as kind of a mainstream countercultural force, it became like it circles back around where every time he's like, fuck the system, people are like, yeah, like let's buy t-shirts.
I want to go buy his t-shirts.
Yeah. Like essentially he becomes like a living Che Guevara t-shirt. And it is haunting. Yeah, Capitalist Realism is really good. I think you'd like Mark Fisher's work a lot.
No, I'm down. Thank you for the recommendation. Like
that's the PDFs online too.
I go through waves with media where it's like I feel like for a year during COVID, like all I was reading was just comic books, and then I got into novels, and I feel like now I'm like, okay, I need to like stretch my brain a bit. Now I gotta like, even though I'm just reading junk pop culture essays, it's still it's tingling me. But it's like, yeah, I need to like stretch more and read more nonfiction again. I'll go through patterns. But yeah, no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, you can read just the opening. I think the whole book is only like 83 pages or something. But if you read the first 20 pages, I guarantee you'll read the rest at some point.
Awesome. There you go, book readers, enjoy. No gamers allowed for this section. It's all about the books. No, I like
hey, what is a book but a video game with no interactivity or graphics?
Boom.
Yeah,
there you go.
All right,
JRPGs are half book anyways.
Yeah,
so true, dude. So true.
The books of gaming. All right, email time. Emails. We got a lot of good emails. We got some messages on Discord, one message on Discord. Lots of really good things here that I'm excited to talk about. So the first one here, and this is basically just for me, is a question about a game development studio with maybe the most wow name on the planet. Like, you couldn't come up with anything better, right? So Rhino Dino asks on our Discord, listening to the latest podcast on JRPGs, I was wondering if you gents had checked out any of the Tokyo RPG Factory games. The studio is a subsidiary of Square Enix, and they have put out 3 JRPGs so far that feel like a callback to the old school JRPGs from the 90s, but much, much smaller in scope, 20 to 30 hours. The games aren't amazing, but I have most definitely enjoyed them, and hopefully they put out a 4th game soon. The games are I Am Setsuna, Lost Sphere, and Oninaki. You guys played any of these games?
No, I feel like...
No. Yeah, I've heard of I Am Setsuna.
Yeah, I Am Setsuna was kind of like their big flagship one that was announced, and I didn't play that one myself. I played the demo for Oninaki, which I thought was cool, and then I never bought the game. But Lost Sphere was my shit. That game rips. The soundtrack for that is really, really good. That was kind of the thing that I walked away from it liking the most. I feel like all JRPGs have really good music. But specifically, like, this has a lot of good tropes of classic RPGs. Like, I haven't played a ton of the big JRPGs like I talked about in our last pod. But the things that this gets across are like, yeah, at least one of the team members runs away for a little bit because they just like have an emotional issue. Like, sure, that's JRPGs love doing that. Or like one of your team members goes missing really early on. Spoilers, they're not dead. Like, that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, this is what JRPGs are all about. But seriously, awful name. I don't know who at Square Enix was like, you know what we should call this company? Tokyo RPG Factory. We hired a bunch of employees to just churn out RPGs.
Counterpoint, my favorite pizza place growing up was called Pizza Factory, and they made a damn good pizza.
Okay,
so
sorry.
Maybe you can just be like a insert word here factory and, just churn them out.
Yeah, fair.
I just looked at gameplay of Lost Sphere, and it's like, oh, this actually looks like nice and cozy. Yeah. No, thank you for the recommendation. I need to again, just climb over some walls and just get lost in some video games. But Lost Sphere sounds good. Oh man, so many games.
Too many.
Are great.
Too many games.
Too many games. It's a whole convention about how there's too many games. Another email here from Mike. Frank, you want to give us a read on this one?
Yeah, hey there, my fellow technology brothers.
Yes.
A few years ago, I started tinkering with Unity, but wound up putting it down for one reason or another. Fast forward to a few months ago, where immediately after watching the first episode of Jayne Dev, I once again installed Unity with the goal of making my own game. I've been working my way through the official Unity tutorials, which are actually really good, but I constantly find myself bumping up against the sheer enormity of everything involved in making a game, which makes the entire process feel daunting and borderline pointless. I only have a few hours per week that I can devote to learning Unity, so I was wondering if Jeremy had any tips on how to best focus one's time when learning Unity or game dev in general. Should I stick with the tutorials to get the basics? Maybe look for more specific guides on YouTube if I know what kind of game I want to make? I recently decided that I want to make a Chrono Trigger-inspired RPG based on a book I wrote a few years back. Any advice would be hugely appreciated. And then, as a somewhat related request, Jeremy mentioned a lot of great resources he's come across his game dev journey, and I was wondering if he could slap a list in Discord somewhere with the most useful ones. Ooh, that's a great idea for like a channel, like a game dev channel.
Yeah.
And then, thanks for the podcast. For forever, your dope smoking technology brother, Mike Alphys.
It's a tough question. I feel like everything I learn with game dev is time consuming. The best, I'm probably not the best person to give advice on this, but I'll try my best. I basically would say the way that I learned was just do a ton of tutorials on things that I saw as necessary elements of making the kind of foundation, or like the foundational elements of a game I wanted to make. And then just follow along with them. And I like it's hard to tell how like proficient you are at like coding and stuff at this point. But if you're finding yourself not able to do the coding elements of what you want to make, follow along tutorials that are relevant and just kind of like just type in the same code that they're typing, and it kind of like it just sinks into your brain eventually. In terms of how to best use your time, I would say just kind of like pre-plan a session. If you're going to do 3-4 hours of game dev on your Saturday afternoon or whatever, try to pick something that you're going to focus on, because then like sometimes early on I would just do like, I'm going to do like an hour of this, an hour of this, an hour of this. And it feels like you're not making progress on any of them. So I would say if you are going to like if you are thinking about making a battle system, make a list of all of the tasks that like the components that's made up of. Oh, I'm gonna have to learn how to like do a turn order. I'm gonna have to learn how to like manage enemies' HP and stuff and their attack rating and stuff like that. And basically like break it down like that. And once you do that, like the way I start any new script when I'm coding in Unity is I will open the script and just make a huge comment section where I write down all the things that I'm gonna need to put in the script, and that way it acts as a checklist. Because essentially I'm like, okay, well, I need to track like health, attack rating, move range, and initiative for turn order. And then you just make those 4 variables and then you cross that thing off of the comment. And even though it's very small, it feels like incremental progress. I think having a to-do list and a like comment section of a script where you say what the script is going to do in very kind of granular detail is helpful, because then as you cross them off, your progress is tangible. You're shrinking the list of things to do. So yeah, just I guess the 2 point summation of that is be kind of like hyper focused on the things for each session that you're learning and working on, and 2, make very granular task lists, more granular than you think, because then you can track your progress and actually feel how much progress you're making. And and lastly, if you get stuck on something, just go. There's so many things to learn. Just go like learn something else. Yeah. And it's all so cumulative that like working on something else really can help you break through that thing later. So don't be, and most of all, just like don't be hard on yourself. I think making games is like one of the hardest things I've ever learned to do. So try to have fun amidst all of the tutorials.
Yeah. The question was for Jeremy. I do have experience working in programming and doing game design and everything. It was what I did in my free time in high school. And I do still do it from time to time. I'll fiddle around in Unity. And whenever you're learning anything technically creative, I feel like the best way to learn it is, like Jeremy, you've been kind of touching on, is pick a thing and learn how to do that. Like following tutorials is a really great way to understand the mechanics of how software works and like what tools do you have to your disposal. What can you work with? It's a great way to do that, to follow the Unity tutorials and do that kind of stuff. But I find like if you're following a tutorial series for a specific kind of thing, like how did this person write a tutorial for how to make an RPG or how to make a platformer or whatever, eventually you hit a point where you're like, I don't find that element of it interesting, but you also can't skip it because they cover a bunch of other stuff in that segment, or at least I found that when I was learning. So I feel like if you come into it like how do in the newest episode of Jayne Dev, spoilers, it'll probably be out when this is out, there's a bit where you talk about learning A-star pathfinding and how that was a pain in the ass, but how learning it was like a necessary step to kind of evolving your ability in game development and coding and everything. And I think that kind of applies in general. Like if you're a person who doesn't have a ton of time, sitting down through a 10-part tutorial series where maybe 2 of the parts are actually applicable to what you want to know can be a little challenging. So yeah, once you get to a certain point, I feel like it's a lot easier to just go, I want to learn how to code this. And then you just go and you learn how to code this. So I definitely agree with you, Jeremy. That's a good way to approach things. Look at this. Look at this. Game dev tutorial series here on the podcast, just at the end for you.
Wait, before we move on to the last one, the I'll put this in Discord too, but the kind of big channels that are good for YouTube or for like YouTube Unity tutorials are Brackeys is obviously the classic one everyone goes to. Code Monkey is really good. Blackthorn Prod has kind of more bite-sized stuff with a kind of like lighter, more fun approach. I'll make a better list, but those 3 are like pretty good ones to start with.
Nice. Yeah. All right, one more email here. Jeremy, want to take us out?
Yes, I do. Ben writes, hey there, fellas. One of you was talking about a lack of action JRPGs and possibly denying their influence on Western games. Well, look no further than the excellent Wise series. Is that how you say it? Y apostrophe S?
It's supposed to be Ys. Yeah.
Okay. That might have auto-corrected with the apostrophe. I'm not sure. I have no idea. It might be spelled that way. I don't know the series. These games have been going... That was all me. That's editorializing. Back to the email now. These games have been going since the 80s from the legendary Falcom studio. You should check some of them out. Love you guys. Keep up the good work at Noclip. Ben. Thank you, Ben. Any of you guys know that series?
I have a sealed copy of Ys 8, which I think is like very valuable, but I'll tear it open at some point and play it. And then early on, like on a Steam sale, like again, a decade ago, I bought like the first 5 Ys games because they looked like perfect, like 4-hour hack and slash RPG games. But I've heard really good things about Ys 8. And again, if I'm saying this wrong, I apologize. Hey, Ys 8. I don't know, Ys.
That sounds like how you say if you're from New York. Hey, I'm playing Ys 8. How you doing?
Hey,
I'm playing Ys over here. Okay. No, yeah, I don't know. Thank you for the recommendation. Dude, this rules. We have so many. Yeah. I think also like I feel like if you play an RPG, again, you're going on this 80-hour journey. I apologize for the stigma of attaching 80 hours, but it's like you get so attached if you beat a JRPG that like you carry it with it for your life. It's like, again, I have Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, Final Fantasy 6, like all these games that I've beat. If you got to that ending, it's like, no, that's forever in your heart. You have to like brand your shit. It's like, no, I played these. Ys 8. Gosh. Okay, cool. At some point I need to make a list of all the games I say I will play on this podcast and then report on it. So if we keep doing this long enough, support the Patreon, we'll play all these games.
Hell yeah.
But I gotta check out Ys 8.
I know. I want to stream some of these games on the Noclip channel. I think that'd be fun.
That'd be perfect.
Totally. That'd be good. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Too many games. You're right. Far too many of them that are good. Why can't there be more bad games? It's so annoying. Ugh.
Oh, they're out there.
Yeah, big rigs. That's about it.
No, that's my favorite. How dare you?
I'm sorry.
No,
Actually, I've never played those games, but they seem kind of cool, actually.
My philosophy is if a game is so bad, it's good. Like if it's so bad, it's charming. Like
it loops back around, right?
Yeah. It's that middle plateau where if it's just boring, it's like, okay, like then you just turn it off and then no one talks about it. But it's it's the same with movies. Like a bad movie is like fascinating, but if it's boring, that sucks.
Yeah.
So
it's an uncanny valley of shit for media.
Yeah.
No, it's not bad enough to be good again.
Yes,
not bad
that's
enough.
the worst.
Yeah.
That's the worst spot. That's how like the Eli Roth Death Proof was, because like Death Proof like is kind of like terrible schlock, but it's the coolest thing in the world. Like those 5 movies. 5 is so bad, but it's so bad it's funny because Charles Bronson's like 80 years old. He is done with the series. He mumbles his lines. It's like, oh, this is amazing. And then Eli Roth's Death Proof is like, but also maybe it's the same as Bruce Willis at the end of his career, and he's trying to get through it too. So it's just not good. But yeah, that's the pain.
Everyone's just trying to get their paychecks in the movie industry.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone. We appreciate you being here and listening to us ramble about all these fun video games that we're playing. It's been nice to catch up. The last couple of pods have been like movie themed, like, we've been talking about specific things. So it's nice to sit down and chat about stuff we're playing. If you'd like to support the podcast, like Frank said, you can go to patreon.com/noclip. You can fund the podcast. You can fund our documentaries. You can fund our adventures to different conventions in different parts of America. The Frank Howley road trip.
Oh, yeah.
And also get bonus episodes of the pod. Like I said, movie reviews, access to the Discord. You can drop questions, get in touch with us and the community and talk all fun things that we're doing. And it's a great time over there. We love the Discord. If you want to follow us on Twitter @NoclipVideo, see everything that's going out. Fun questions. Frank, you tend to drop a couple fun questions there every once in a while.
Yeah, whenever there's like a fun topic we have going in. But please send in emails and stuff too and post in this Discord because it's fun bringing in your questions and recommendations to the show.
Yeah, please. If there's anything you're looking forward to for the rest of the year, I just quickly skipped over 3 months there and just jumped to what I was interested in November. There's tons of stuff coming out. Overwatch 2, other stuff, the Dialfield Chronicles, I don't know, Harvestella, stuff like that. If you're, let us know what you're thinking. Podcast @noclip.video. You can send us, tweet at us, any of us, @NoclipVideo. You tweet at me, @Garasha, @Frank Howley, @Jeremy B. Jayne. Just harass Jeremy's phone. Just send him a bunch of ats. What's your favorite JRPG? And you just have to keep answering the same thing over and over.
I will answer because I like talking about that stuff.
Watch our docs, youtube.com/noclipvideo, which we, again, Hyperlight Development Episode 1 has come out. You should watch it if you haven't already. It's fantastic. We talked about Bloodborne PSX last week. It is still up there for you to watch. We haven't taken it down. We promise we will not. And Jayne Dev will be out. This comes up on Friday, so maybe you'll be watching it while you're listening to this. Double teaming your ears with some Noclip content.
Yeah, go sub to the Noclip Crew channel as well.
Yes, youtube.com/Noclip
these weird side projects.
Yeah, please. Yeah, we got fun stuff coming out there. There's another developer breakdown soon. I don't know if that's been announced yet. I don't think it has been, but it's a fun one. It's good. Let's just say it's about going fast and shooting guns and doing. I wouldn't shut up about it for a month and a half there, so you probably know what it is if you listen to this podcast.
Is it Sonic with guns? You said going fast and guns. Is it Sonic holding a gun?
We interviewed the lead developer on Shadow the Hedgehog. That's Sonic with guns.
Dude.
Yeah. Spoil it? No, not really. Maybe one day. That'd be cool to talk to someone from Sega about Sonic stuff.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, keep listening to the pod, youtube.com/Noclip podcast if you want to see the video version of it where it's our heads with little circles doing fun stuff. It's a great time. And you keep listening wherever you're listening. Do whatever you want. Leave us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. If you're enjoying it. If you're not enjoying join it. If we made mistakes, podcast@noclip.video. You can join it on the corrections that we get every once in a while. Anyways, that's a pod. Thanks so much for listening. Guys, what are we doing this week? What's the plans for the rest of it? Jeremy, are you finally going to take a break and sit down?
Yeah, I've been chilling, dude. I after like 3 weeks of finishing Bloodborne demake documentary and Jayne Dev and a bunch of other stuff in the middle and podcasts and all this stuff, I have been I went on a drive to the sea yesterday and hung out by the river and made some borscht and played games with my boys. So I'm trying to rebound a little bit, but we just announced the Rogue Legacy 2 doc is in production. I will be editing that once my brain is fully operational. So look out for that. Get psyched. And in the meantime, I will be chilling. And my life is just tactics RPGs now. That's all I do is just that and eat and sleep.
That's what you do in the morning. Wonderful. You only walk a certain number of steps until something else in your house moves. You're like, shit.
I literally, last night I was playing Gloomhaven with my friends and they were taking a long time to decide on their turns. So I was playing Final Fantasy Tactics Advance on my handheld while they were doing their turn. So it was just like, I'm just playing 2 at once. I'm just fucking tactics all day, baby.
Can't stop, won't stop. Love it. Yeah, I'm with you on the tactics, man. I got triangle strategy. I don't know what's next, but it's going to be something good. Frankie, what are we saying? What are we doing? What's going on?
There's a lot of good TV to catch up on. I got to watch the latest Better Call Saul. The Rehearsal is becoming like one of the greatest TV shows ever made, so I can't wait for each new episode. They keep adding layers to it. So The Rehearsal's magnificent. And then there's a new Predator movie called Prey that's getting good buzz.
Right.
They should have put it in movie theaters, but hey, at least I'll be able to watch it immediately at home.
Is it only on Hulu?
Prey. Yeah, it's only on Hulu, which, just put that in. I want to see that in theaters, but hey, that's all right. And then one correction, I accidentally compared Bad Games to Death Proof. I meant to say Death Wish. Death Proof's the Tarantino car movie. Death Wish is the schlocky 80s Charles Bronson murder spree films. All of them very good.
There we go. Don't email us about that one, all right? We got it already.
Yeah.
We're in the clear.
Yeah.
Anyway,
in before
corrections. In before corrections. No emails. Don't at me. Myself, I'm going to keep taking care of a bunch of creatures, a bunch of outside alley cats and dog and fish and humans sometimes. It's a fun time over there at that house. It's a good one. We're eating fresh strawberries and fresh tomatoes off the vine. It's kind of lovely. It's kind of like an Airbnb with some chores I got to do, which I guess is just an Airbnb.
That sounds awesome.
But yeah, games. I'm going to finish Triangle Strategy or try to, and I'm going to check out that Citizen Sleeper DLC. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, Jeremy, if you're not off for your vacation or your mild vacation.
Oh, does it have tactics? Because if it doesn't have tactics, I won't get around to it.
It does. You played it. You roll dice. That's
it has
almost
social
a tactic.
tactics.
Exactly. Yeah, it's social tactics.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.